This is Red Dog Terrain. Welcome back to the shed. Today we're building something out of a VCR. My friend Jenna was moving into her own place. There was some stuff left behind by the previous tenant, including this old broken VCR. And as it was being thrown in the trash, I saved it. Do you know how many greeblies there are in one of these things? As I quickly disassembled this VCR, I want to give a huge thanks to Carl at Carl Makes Stuff for having me on his live stream. I was super nervous going into it, but after a few minutes I relaxed and had a fantastic time talking to him. We talked about baby heads, tentacles, magnets, turtles, and so much more. There's also a visit from a wasp who made its way into the shed. Link in the description. I also want to thank those who joined the live stream and participated in the chat. Heels LFW, Halionics, Dirty Basement, Campaign Terrain, Kit Bash Carnage, Questboard, Daffod, Dungeon Matron, Earthman Brick, and Loosely Collected. I also want to thank all those who continue to show love for the channel. I do this in my limited free time, and getting encouragement and comments is a huge boost to keep me making terrain and videos. I don't have a Patreon, so I'll give you your props here for free. Sarah's Capus, Dungeons and Chronics, Cleric's Creation, Old Borgia, Wayne, Josh, Lilu Creations, Rab, my mom, Coach, Terrain by Aaron, Moonwitch Kitty, Black Indium, Creators Gaming, and so many more. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I made a challenge for myself. I wanted to build something and only use pieces from this VCR. No foam, no cardboard, no beads, and I was 99.9% successful in this challenge. Since I had no idea what pieces I was going to find in the VCR, I had no idea what I was going to build. No plan, no drawing, no idea. But eventually, a few pieces stood out, and a zygote of an idea began forming. My idea was to create a tower, a wide base tower with a large crane on it, and a big magnet. With my safety glasses on, I cut up the outer shell of the VCR into two trapezoids. The sides of the VCR had vents, and that free detail work would go up the sides of the tower. The back of the VCR bumped out and also had vents. Not wanting the tower to be perfectly flat or boring, I cut that up and attached it. I had two pieces like that, but I decided to only put one on one side. Non-symmetrical things look more interesting. Satisfied with the base shape, I put a top on the tower. There were several gaps and things didn't quite line up right. Old plastic from electronics doesn't cut as easily or as straight as foam or cardboard, but I wasn't worried. I knew I could fill in the gaps later with spackle and texture paste. Wanting to make sure the base was sturdy, I put extra super glue around the seams. Also, inside I squirted so much hot glue. This thing isn't going to fall apart. Okay, the base won't fall apart. I accidentally broke off several pieces of the crane. The next few days were me gluing bits and pieces together. I would rummage through the box of parts and see what I could find that would fit together in interesting ways. I really should have washed these bits and pieces and sanded them all. Several times the super glue broke and I had to redo parts. I switched to UV resin for a while, but that wasn't working either. The best solution I came up with was super glue, baking soda, more super glue, and more baking soda. When combined, you get a very thick, hard crust, and things seem to hold together. Rotate arm, arm down. Engage magnet. 1, 2, 3, 4. Magnet engaged. Rotate arm, magnet full. Lift arm. Rotate arm over transport vehicle. Disengage magnet. 1, 2, 3, 4. Magnet disengaged. It was the same steps all day, over and over again. The same steps every day. Moving scrap metal from the pile in the yard to transports that would take and deposit it in a different yard. He could do the whole job blindfolded, if it weren't for having to watch for scrap the magnet couldn't pick up, which wasn't much. If there was something the magnet couldn't lift, he would radio down to the 2 men on the ground. "Hey guys, what's that bright blue thing on the left?" The men clambered out of their chairs and waded into the metal scraps. "Hey boss, you're not gonna like this." "Yeah? What is it?" "It's a body, sir. A male. Human body." Nothing like piles of paperwork to break up the monotony of piles of scrap metal. This part here is what gave me the idea for the magnet crane. It has so much detail. It's a great little piece. It already had 3 holes. I widened them a bit, put wires in, and ran them up to the arm. And now I have a big industrial magnet. I held off on attaching the arm to the base for 2 reasons. 1, I was trying to figure out if I could make it stable and still rotate, and 2, having them separate would make it so much easier to paint. After many hours of work and turning the shed into an absolute mess, I was moving towards the end. With my Dremel, I sanded out any parts that were jagged or stuck out too far. I also filled in gaps with spackle. The 2 songs you're hearing in this video are by the band Aya. The first song is Ouroboros off their first album, and the second song is Pry off their second album. Check them out on Bandcamp, link in the description. After a quick spray paint of gray, I moved on to texture paste. I wanted a texture of old, weathered, beaten up metal, but not rusty. I'd seen MidWinter minis make texture paste for basing minis out of coffee. I decided to give that a try. After baking the used coffee grounds for an hour on the lowest setting, I combined them with Mod Podge. It was thick, but easy to use. It stuck well to the plastic. I focused on the edge and seams. Besides being texture, it was also there to hide some of the imperfections. I also made a similar paste, but used sand instead of coffee. This made a more subtle texture. I would add another base coat of gray, and then paint everything a dark gray-green called wrought iron. I would dry brush with a mid-green, and later a dull but light green. Everything would get a simple black wash to pull the colors together, and then I would use Soilworks oil wash to add more grime. It must have come in with the shipment last night. Yeah? Well, somebody obviously didn't want this guy found, so let's keep it that way. The 3 men, standing in the dirty yard, surrounded by massive piles of scrap, looked at each other. If we let the authorities know, they'll come down here and start asking a lot of questions. Maybe start looking into people's past and asking more questions, if you know what I mean. We could wire pipes around him. The magnet could pick that up, right? Magnet engaged. Rotate arm. Magnet full. Lift arm. Rotate arm over transport vehicle. Disengage magnet. 1, 2, 3, 4. Magnet disengaged. It was the same thing every day. I printed out these warning signs and added a few on the crane. I pressed them down with watered down PVA glue, the same mixture I use to lock in gravel and flock. With everything painted and in place, I glued the top of the crane in. On the inside, I added more super glue and baking soda. After that dried, I added hot glue. I was really worried about it breaking off. I think I went overboard. I did more washes and another dry brush. I'm going to let the music play as I finish up and show off the final shots.